Cleared. I saw the news yesterday. I'm very happy about it. But you see, for me, I would say as soon as possible, or as soon as practically possible, because you need to accumulate savings. By the way, when we talked about Hasra Fund, we were talking about you need credit because you have no savings, isn't it? But if you have savings and credit, you can accelerate your own capital asset accumulation. So for me, I would say that once it is practically possible, we should start with NSSF deductions because it has now been cleared. So for me, it's urgent. Look at how many years we have spent. It's the same thing with the reforms on pensions. You remember? When we reformed the pension and they came up with different modalities and even products of pension funds, you can see how it has worked. For those pension funds that have worked very well, they have allowed us to deepen the financial system in terms of different products. So this is where I have come from myself in terms of talking about pension refunds. I remember I participated in pension refunds in 2000. We were doing that for the whole of Africa. And we have seen examples in Africa. We have seen examples in Kenya. So essentially for me, as soon as possible, as soon as it is practically possible, because there are the legal processes we have to go through, the whole issue of management, institutional DNA. Remember that I don't leave out institutional DNA, but when I talk about institutional DNA, I focus on two things: the rules of the game, okay, and incentives, appropriate incentives. Economic activity improves taxation, isn't it? Once economic activity starts improving, then it means taxation can work. You can pay more taxes. But if the economic activity is subdued, that is, you are in a recession, then it means also revenue is also in a recession. So most of the measures that were picked up, like for example, I have talked about the value chain approach in terms of resource allocation. It's also to make sure that you allocate resources where it is going to be more impactful. It is going to create more economic vibrancy. That is where, together with the measures that we take up in terms of reforms in the taxation, that is where we have a congruence of results. And we cannot say it starts tomorrow because you have to ask yourself, when do you start with the reforms? But that is the picture that we have and that we're good. We are trying to, let me put it this way, infrastructure, as I emphasized, is very, very important for our turnaround in terms of growth. But we also don't have resources to invest in infrastructure. So what do we do? That's why we are stepping up our PPP approach in terms of that. That's why we are even talking about the water management and PPP approach. So essentially, what we are trying to do is to look at varieties of solutions. It's not one solution, diverse solutions. Government cannot be the only supplier of the investments. We also have to ignite private sector. By the way, once we ignite the private sector, we are actually going to be encouraging the growth poles to actually move in that direction. So I said that infrastructure is very, very important in Kenya today, and it's the same in African economies, because one of the most important things they do is actually to lower transactions cost, and which means enhancing the profitability of private investment. So it has to create that complementarity. And that's why we have to do everything that is possible to make sure that we step up infrastructure, including the stored project. Those are areas that we're
planning for what is ahead in terms of activities. We have several, activities lined up in terms of processing, issues to do with budget policy statement, issues to do with disbursement schedule, the main budget itself, processing of equalization fund appropriation bill, processing of utilization fund bill, among many, in terms of the number of activities that we have. And we are here planning the calendar immediately the 13th Parliament reopens or resumes. We will have beehive of activities as a committee, and that is what we have come to get our planning in order. And apart from that, we're also engaging with key stakeholders like National Treasury, because our functions involve also oversighting the National Treasury, CRA, among others, and not only from oversight perspective, but more in the area of trying to get to understand their roles and responsibilities and the policy direction of the government.
To take away the responsibility of Parliament in terms of the approval of rejection, whereby the CES wants to be the final and each and every company. Involvement of the stakeholders because it actually comes out as a big concern. And to narrow it more specifically as far as matters private.
Board at listening very keenly on what you're presenting. It gives a clear sense of authority in the area of jurisdiction and the area of responsibility you are in. And the fact that presentation, we will benefit from having a copy of that presentation for the committee. My only question is, now, how serious is the government and your ministry to tackle the bull by the horn? We wanted by the government. Every possible new policy direction of the government at the center, somewhere below the center, or around the center for that matter.
Please just give him a hand of applause. Thank you, my chairman, Senator. Split that, it was very technical. We want to say thank you so much, everybody. Right now, this session is over.
Kazi ni kuuma meno, kuna kitu kingine unajua. Na uko na saluni, unauma meno. Kama mtoto mdogo. Toka hapo. Let's have a picture. You are ready? Let's talk.